Podcasting, I like to think of it, and I think I've heard one of the definitions of what pod really means, and it's not necessarily related to Apple's product, but it's more portable on demand. And whether or not that's where the term came from, that's how I like to think of it. So it can be audio, it can be video. The point is it's a form of rich media, updated and created on a relatively frequent basis. It's portable. It can be syndicated. RSS and some form of feed syndication is an important aspect of that. But you can take it with you and listen to it whenever you want, which sets it apart from what streaming media is, where you have to go to an actual website to view a streaming file because it's linked to that server, whereas a podcast in video or audio form is something you can take with you in MP3 or some other video format and put it on a portable device, put on a mobile phone, listen to it on your laptop when you're not logged into the net. That's how we look at podcasting. We put out a report based on data from 2005, and at that point in time, this is a report that we published back in March that Charlene Lee published, and it was about 1% of people listen to podcasts, which it wasn't in the same league as blogs, but it's a decent number. Based on the same survey we just completed in 2006, we just published a report and showed that's jumped to 10%. So while it's not at the level of blogs, nor do I think that it will be, because there's a lot of other constraints involved in consuming podcasts that there aren't with reading text, it's still seeing a pretty reasonable and steady growth, and I think we'll continue to see that. I think a lot of that has to do with what content is available. Podcast was still a relatively new thing. The mainstream, mass audience didn't really know what podcasts were. Now I think more people are listening to podcasts. They may not know that they are, even in some cases, that they're listening to a podcast or watching a podcast, because it can be audio or video. So I think it's one of those growth in content. It's just like with downloadable movies, and if you look at our data and see what kind of video people like to watch, it initially was movie trailers, because that's all you could find on the net, and all of the things like business videos and TV programs, they weren't even on the list. They were negligible in terms of the content, but as more of that content becomes available, now people are consuming it more. So I think we're still in that early growth phase of podcasting, and more people like yourself are starting to figure out what does it take to create content that people want to listen to in this format. This is Brian Haven, Forrester Research on Beat TV.